Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rock and Metal Guardian. I'm Dane, your host. Hope you're doing great wherever you may find yourselves. Blessings to all of you wonderful people out there. Finally, I'm doing my review on Pink Floyd's At Pompeii, the CD. And let's talk about the tracks that you get. There are 8 tracks on CD1 and 2 on CD2. CD1, you get the Pompeii intro, 3 minutes 30 seconds. Echoes Part 1, just shy of 12 minutes. Careful with that axe, Eugene, just over 6.5 minutes. A Saucer Full of Secrets, track 4, 10 minutes 10 seconds. One of These Days comes next, just shy of 6 minutes. Then you get Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, just shy of 10.5 minutes. Then Mademoiselle Knobs, just shy of 2 minutes. And then Echoes Part 2, 13 minutes 23 seconds. Side 2, you get Careful with that axe, Eugene, an alternative take, just over 6 minutes. And then A Saucer Full of Secrets, the unedited version, just shy of 13 minutes. Now the packaging, nothing special really here. Here's the gatefold when you open it. Here's the cover again. I do like the cover. I do like the back as well. It's a great live shot. And then the booklet. It's got some cool photos, but it's, not that impressive. You get the liner notes, right? I do like the photos. I've seen them before. Especially this is really cool. Behind the scenes. These are always wonderful. Seen these before. This is nice as well. Sun going down. And that's pretty much it. What's really cool are the CDs, the visuals on them. You have the mosaics. CD1. And then CD2, I guess having to do with Greek theater, hence tragedy, and or the catastrophe that was Pompeii and Herculaneum centuries ago. One drawback to the CD is getting the booklet back in with disc 2. But anyway, so let's go ahead and talk about and discuss this. This, if you know, or if you don't know, was recorded in the Roman amphitheater at Pompeii. 4th through 7th of October 1971, so I'm 3 years old at the time, for Pink Floyd at Pompeii, directed by Adrian Mabin, and this is a 2025 stereo remix by the wonderful Steven Wilson. And of course, you know the lineup of the band. Now, the CD was never available on CD before, with the exception if you bought the now long out of print Pink Floyd, the early years. It came in that, the CD and the Blu-ray or DVD. Or if you bought the box set, which was also divided into parts where you could buy section of the box set singularly, like Obfuscation, etc. There was an early years double, greatest hits of the box set kind of thing, and that wasn't on it. You had Deviation and other, it always end in TION, those separate mini sections, if you will, of the whole box set. Some of that, if not most of that, is still in print. And the one that it came in was Obfuscation, which was volume 6 of that box set, which was an accident. It came in the box set because it accidentally replaced Obscured by Clouds 2016 mix, which was supplied in error if you bought the box set. And then, of course, it definitely came in the Obfuscation set, if I'm pronouncing that word right. So up until, unless, with the exception of those two, big box set and smaller box set, this is the first time that's really been released for the masses, if you will. Now, with the exception of Mademoiselle Knobs, which is just an alternate version of Seamus, which with a different dog at the time. It's not Steve Marriott's dog, which was on the original metal release. With the exception of Mademoiselle Knobs, this disc 1 works wonderful as a suite. The reason I say that is because all the songs are very acid rock, or if you want to call it prog, or Pink Floyd's an interesting band because they've been labeled as subgenres of rock. They've been labeled prog or progressive rock, art rock, acid rock, psychedelic rock, experimental rock, noise rock, perhaps the progenitors of noise rock and or experimental rock, and of course also avant-garde. But if you take Mademoiselle Knobs out, this set works as a suite because all the songs coalesce so well with respect to synergy, and us music fans, so many of us, can't speak for everyone, love when you have a track listing that just meshes so well and it becomes perfect. So it's almost perfect with the exception of Mademoiselle Knobs in the lineup. If you take it out, again, it works even more wonderful with respect to coalescing and meshing and synergy, and the beauty of track listings connecting to each other so well, because all the music, with the exception of Mademoiselle Knobs, it's hard to say, have similar tones and spirits and vibes. Of course, they're different songs, but they lend a certain energy to each other, which makes this, as I said, almost a perfect set. Now, I do like this version of Seamus, but it's more of a bluesy track than anything else here. Everything else is more ethereal and psychedelic and all those things that I mentioned, progressive, that kind of thing. All right, so this album is totally surreal from start to finish. Even the bluesy stuff in track 7 with the dog, howling for attention or whatever. It's just over the top surreal, and it makes it a beautiful piece to add to your Pink Floyd collection or your music library in general. So again, it's very surreal. From the start of that ping noise you get to start echoes once the Pompeii intro is out of the way. See, hairs on end. But I even like the Pompeii intro as well. I think it sets up like an overture does. In the olden days, you go to a movie like Spartacus, the original, and you'd see same thing with The Who with respect to rock operas. You get an overture, and it blends itself and lends itself so well to as an intro to echoes. So it's surreal. I was totally blown away listening to this. So I'm going to just tell you now, you have to get this if you're a Pink Floyd fan, or if you're a progressive rock, art rock, all those things I said, psychedelic rock type things, a blend of all those things, right? I was totally blown away. I had a smile on my face the entire time that I was listening to this, or most of the time. I could literally feel myself smiling. I was just so impressed and overwhelmed in a good way. Now, the quality of the sound here is exquisite. Now, I have different setups in my apartment. I'm not going to play something like this for the TV because all I have is the speakers on the original screen here. Not a good way to listen to music. I used to have a sound bar, but it broke, so can't listen to it that way. I have a stereo in my bedroom, but I listen to it first on my computer, and I have some pretty good computer speakers, if you will. They're not top of the line, but they're not dirt cheap either. They're mid-range price. And my neighbor was gone for the evening, and my neighbor over here was gone, so I cranked it up. And with these small mid-level price speakers, I was so impressed. They sounded that good. They're just Logitech speakers with a bass woofer set over here, and I was just totally blown away. Set up to my computer, but I didn't play it through iTunes. I played it by putting the CD and running the program that plays the CDs, and it sounded great. So again, I was blown away. The sound quality is exquisite. Steven Wilson has done it again. Let's talk about the instruments. All the instruments sound perfect in wherever they are in the mix. They're wonderfully and amazingly placed in the mix. Let's talk about the bass. The bass resonates like never before. It's on equal footing, as it should be. Think in the same vein that Geddy Lee's bass is on equal footing in Rush, right? A lot of bands, you have the bass kind of takes a back beat to the rest of the band, but some bands, they put the bass on equal footing. Totally here. It's marvelous. Again, part of the reason as a bass player, probably why I had a smile on my face the whole time, or most of the time, but there are other reasons. It's just that good, not just the bass. So the bass sounds great. It's equal footing with the rest of the instruments. It resonates so well. Talk about the drums. Nick Mason's drums are hypnotic. He fits so well in keeping time and setting the time and the pacing and the rhythm, and him and Waters work so well together, and of course with Wright and Gilmour as well. The drums are so inviting and hypnotic. Vocals. Gilmour and Waters' vocals, to quote Gilmour in Echoes, are exciting and inviting. It's that good. The vocals are how they should be in the mix. They're powerful. They're not over the top obtrusive. They're right where they should be. It's so wonderful. Great. Gilmour's guitar next. Wow comes to mind. Gilmour's palette here is phenomenal. It's haunting at times, and then at other times it's moving and compelling and emotional. There's a certain it's very captivating. There's a certain thrill that goes to the vibe. The tone is just off the charts here. If we talk about Richard Wright's contribution to the band on this recording, at times he's in the backdrop, but then at other times he's in the forefront, if you will. Sometimes he's on equal footing with the band, depending on what the song calls for. And he ties everything all together. I think that's why this band works so well. Each of the four members have their contribution. They're all, at least still at this point in the band, on equal footing. The fighting hasn't gotten to the point where it gets later in their career. There's a wonderful scene of, I'm pretty sure it's Gilmour and Waters carrying the gong out, into the center of the theater, if you will. And it brings joy to my face to see them, working together, and what could have been, and it's kind of sad. But here, at this moment in time, things are just gelling. They're still, in that wonderful moment of their career where everything is still, that acid rock, that prog, that psychedelic goodness with the blues, the hushed vocals, the sometimes over-the-top vocals with the screams, and Careful with That Axe Eugene, which is arguably a proto-metal song in some ways. It's just wonderful to hear these guys at work. There's something just overall engrossing. As I said, it's exciting, it's inviting. This is the band, about to get seriously recognized for things like Dark Side of the Moon and beyond. But to me, this stuff is on equal footing with the stuff that's on Dark Side, whether you're talking Dark Side of the Moon, whether you're talking about the studio version or the live at Wembley stuff. I've wanted this for so long, and now it's finally here. So many of us wanted this for so long, and it's finally here. Like I said, I had a smile on my face the whole time. As far as Pink Floyd fans go, I believe this is essential. This is dynamite. I did a video not that long ago, maybe a month ago, about my top favorite single live albums of all time, not double records. And you have bonus tracks on CD2, but the show is really just CD1. So if you count this as just one CD performance, because it is, again, just bonus tracks on CD2, this is definitely in my top favorite of all single non-double vinyl, non-triple vinyl releases. One of my favorite of all time. I don't know where I would place it, but it would definitely be in the top 3. This is wonderful, folks. If you're a casual Pink Floyd listener and you're not that familiar with Pink Floyd, I highly suggest you start here. It's that good. I'm so stoked about this. I'm so beside myself that this finally came out to purchase, just as a single item, not inside of a box set or part of a box set that's from a larger box set. Like I said, this is just dynamite. Now let me talk briefly about CD2. I do like the alternate take of Careful with That Axe Eugene. I like the one on the concert better. It's still good though. And then Saucerful of Secrets unedited, I think, is really good. And I may do a playlist where I replace this version with the the one in the set list and make a different, set list because it's unedited. You get the full experience, and I've talked about that all the time on this channel. Like, I want the full live experience. I don't want anything edited. Now, finally, let me say this: on the box set, the early years, Pink Floyd, there are versions of Echoes Live that are not split in two, and I've always wondered why they split in two. Going back to when this was on, released on video for the first time, and you bought it or you rented it from Blockbuster or whatever, or if a friend, right, you watched it with them. Was Echoes split in two live when they performed this for the film, or did they play it in one go and then split it up for dramatic effect? Because it works well concluding it at the end. But on the box set, there are one or two examples or more of Echoes played live from start to finish without divvying it up. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure there is a version of this performance, this very same night, or nights 4 through 7 October, where Echoes was played in its entirety without splitting it up into two parts. I may look into creating this as a playlist where Echoes is just at the end of the concert or at the beginning after Pompeii intro. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it. Just for curiosity's sake, how will it sound? Will it sound disrupted if I try to play them back to back because it doesn't mesh? Who knows? But that's a slight criticism of the recording. But I still like it because you do get Echoes at the end, and Echoes is my favorite song of this time period. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Take care now. God bless. Bye now.